How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Blade Runner Black Lotus, Issue 1. This is from Titan Comics and was written by Nancy A. Collins with pencils by Enid Balam. And this is a continuation of the Blade Runner Black Lotus animated series from Adult Swim and Crunchyroll. Now, overall, I did wind up really liking the animated series. It obviously has the faults that everyone says it has, but if you want a more action, pop-heavy version of Blade Runner, much more something you can just sit back and enjoy. It's not as deep, but it's pretty fun. And I wound up, over time, it grew on me. And I did really like it. And I also really like Titan Comics' other Blade Runner comics. The stories with Ash, the 2019-2029 stuff, I really liked those. And I read the first volume of Origins and I thought it was pretty good too. So I liked the show. I liked Titan's other Blade Runner comics. I was really looking forward to this series. Blade Runner Black Lotus, the first season, wrapped everything up, but definitely ended in a place where you could do more adventures. Elle went off into the desert on her spinner bike, and you wanted to know what happened next to the character. It's unclear if we'll get a second season or not, but for now we can follow the character in the comics. And I was really excited for this. I really wanted it to be good, but sadly, now that I've read the first issue, it's definitely Titan's weakest Blade Runner book, and that really does make me sad because I was really hoping for this one, I guess we'll begin with the pros. The pros, obviously, first off, you have Elle back. Elle was a really great character. She kind of became the only bright and optimistic spot in the Blade Runner universe, which was really fresh, and you really did root for her. And it's always great to see her back. She's still the same character, and I was really glad we get to continue her adventures. The other big pro is the art is actually pretty good. It's a sharper, more angular style, and when they let the artist draw future technology and when they let the artist draw action scenes, it can pan out really well. So the art was pretty good here, and I did like that. But note how I said when they let the artist draw future tech and action scenes. I guess I should get in the flaws. This book sadly suffers from two fatal flaws, and it's kind of sad. But the first fatal flaw, it doesn't have the Blade Runner Black Lotus feel. When you talk about the Blade Runner feel, big cities, smoke, darkness, neon lights, Blade Runner is tech-noir. When you go into Black Lotus, it has all that, but it's much more pop, much more anime influence, much more action-heavy. This book, it doesn't have that. Granted, the way the show ended, it did kind of lean into going away from formula. I mean, she obviously drove off into the desert, so no more Officer Davis, no more Doc Badger. Okay, that makes sense, but I really wish they found a way to get her to a different city, but instead she stops at this town in the middle of the desert, and it is super hard to do tech-noir in the desert, and it's a completely different feeling. Now, at first I didn't mind. The book opens up with an action sequence with Elle fighting off scavengers, and it worked out pretty well. Granted, it did feel more like Mad Max than Blade Runner, but I like Mad Max too, so I guess it was fine, right? You get Elle, the group of scavengers, kind of the desert punk feel, and I thought it was a fun action sequence. But the problem is, that's where it cuts off. There's no more action for the rest of the book, and it gets super, super slow, and it doesn't even have that crazy Mad Max feel. When they get to the city in the desert, it is just boring and generic. It doesn't feel like any crazy future, and that's what I really wanted, something with energy behind it. I guess we should talk about energy now. The second big flaw with this book is how it handles the message. Now, this book is about clean energy. Now, don't get me wrong, you could definitely do a clean energy story in Blade Runner. Blade Runner is a world that was ravaged by an ecological apocalypse. You could definitely do a clean energy story there. You could definitely do an environmental story in Blade Runner. And also, yeah, the environment is something really important. We definitely should take at least a little time to think about, how we can do things just a little better, and definitely try to treat the planet nicer. I'm not arguing with that. It's not the message, it's how it handles the message. It's what they do. Talking about Mad Max again. Remember in Mad Max, the third one, Beyond Thunderdome, where you get Master and Blaster, and Master's really smart, and he put a bunch of pigs in a cave and found a way to harvest their methane? That's talking about energy, but reinventing it for the world of the story. But there's no clever reinventions here, and not really any interesting story. It's the same old, they go to the desert, and there's this commune of people with good, clean energy, and the bad guys have bad energy, and they're kind of a gang, and they're gonna be fighting each other. Very, very standard stuff, but when we get to the people with the clean energy, they're using regular, straight from our timeline windmills. And I mean regular, straight from our timeline. When we saw the first Blade Runner movie, and that was set in 2019, it was very clear Blade Runner was in a very different timeline than us. But when we see these windmills, and they're just like the ones we see in real life, it took me out of the book so quickly, because that wasn't a Blade Runner thing. That was an us thing. That was what we do. If you want to talk about clean energy in Blade Runner, reinvent it and think how the world of Blade Runner would do clean energy. Don't just draw the exact same windmill that we have in our timeline. And then, of course, the bad guys, because this is an environmental story, are doing fracking. Again, verbatim, what we see in our timeline, didn't change it at all to make it Blade Runner fracking. It's just fracking. And the boss is a slimy little businessman, and he's not super interesting, and he's doing exactly what you'd expect. There is a plot later on where not Wayland, that's aliens. Wallace is coming in and trying to take all his replicants. So there is a hint that Wallace will be the real villain of this story, and I'm looking forward to them coming in, because at least they can shake things up, because this gangster versus commune story is super cliche and boring, and like I said, there's no action after the prologue. It's just Elle walking around the city, and I'm really hoping something will happen in the next few issues. But as it stands now, I really want the book to do well. I like seeing Elle again, and like I said, the art is good enough, but nothing happens in here. And when we do see this world, it's not a creative Blade Runner reinvention of this world. It's literally fracking and windmills just like we've seen on Earth. And yeah, no action. Oh well. I don't want to rant forever, but that being said, kind of disappointed in this book, and I really hope it gets better over the next couple issues. I don't know if I'll cover them or if I'll wait till the trade comes out or what, but I hope it gets better. But anyway, if you guys want to see a little more for this book, I'm going to switch to the close-up camera. We can talk about the plot in a little more detail, and you guys can see a little bit of the art. So if you want to do a little bit of a deeper dive, no major spoilers, but if you want to do a deeper dive, I'm going to switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at Blade Runner Black Lotus issue 1. And right off the bat, here's the front cover. This is the main A cover, and we get a nice picture of Elle with her katana and her classic costume from the series with the jacket and the purple leggings. Obviously, she's going to be in her desert costume for this. And strangely, her blue and purple hair tie switched to orange. And I guess when you're in the desert, you got to do that. This is also an issue 1, so there is going to be a lot of variant covers, and they did include a nice gallery for us. But yeah, it's the way comics are nowadays. You do an issue 1, you got to have a bunch of variants for it. And then there's next issue, September 2022. Anyway, after that, if we crack the book open, we get the credits on this page and an ad for their past Blade Runner comics over here. And when Origins 3 comes out, they're going to have 9 books, which, boy, they've made a lot more Blade Runner comics than I thought. I mean, I knew they came out, but I just didn't realize how many we were getting up to nowadays. But yeah, it seems like they like to do them in sets of 3s. 3 2019, 3 2029, and 3 volumes of Origins. I think after Origins 3, Origins is switching to like an Origins Year 2 type deal. Not 100% sure on what they're doing exactly. But I've read about half of these, and I've liked them so far. And I'm definitely looking forward to finishing off the ones I haven't. I recently just went to a comic book shop that had them. It was kind of out of my way, and I was able to pick up the last 3 that I hadn't read yet. Anyway, after this we do get a catch-up on. If you guys haven't seen Black Lotus, you can get the gist of it from reading this. Basically, all you really need to know is Replicant broke free, drove away into the desert on a speeder bike. You'll be fine. But then after that we get to the book proper, and I'm going to try to be avoiding major spoilers, but you know, with an issue 1 I do go in farther than I normally do. I'll be avoiding major spoilers, and I won't show you guys everything, but I'll show you guys a bit of the story, a bit of the art, and you know, just kind of try to get you guys a feel for what's going on. So we get 2032, somewhere east of Los Angeles, and there's Elle driving up on her spinner bike, and we get nice details like here's the ruins of a former city, and I even really like seeing the road signs all broken up, you know, because they're in a state of disrepair. But of course, someone shoots at her bike, and she is going to crash. After that, we get to see these scavengers, and of course, Elle is going to wake up and not let them get away with this, so she fights all 3 of them off, being a super strong replicant. And another detail I really do like is, you know, Elle doesn't necessarily want to kill people, so when she throws this knife, she hits him with the dull end just to, you know, knock him out. So I do like that little character trait is, you know, she killed the people in the show that directly, you know, were involved with the doll hunt. But these are just, you know, people in the middle of the desert, nowhere. Don't bother killing them, right? But anyway, they strapped up her spinner bike and broke it, so she is going to just take their van and head into town. And overall, a fun enough introduction, a nice fight scene with Elle in it. But then we get this page, and this is kind of where the book starts to go downhill. She pulls up to a city, and right off the bat, welcome to Fracktown. Just gonna call it Fracktown, huh? And also a population of 54 million? Boy, the outskirts really don't let on that it's gonna be 54 million. I bet they're all crammed up in the city here. Wow. But anyway, she goes to this Wild West town, and she sees a woman called Junket, and she asks to get her bike repaired. And she says that she can do it, but Elle doesn't have any more money and offers up the van as a form of payment. I mean, I guess she could have just gone in the van, but the speeder bike or a spinner bike would be faster and able to get over more terrain. But that being said, I think the cost of a van would be worth more than the repairs of the bike. But that being said, maybe non-flying vehicles are not that valuable nowadays, I don't know. But anyway, she's approached by these gang of thugs who try to pick her up and take the stuff from her. But of course, even though Elle could have fought all these people on her own, this guy has to show up and save her. And this guy, of course, is the clean energy guy, and the guy we just saw is the evil fracking guy. He gets a message and decides to leave anyway. By the way, the messenger guy, that looks like a young Fred from Scooby-Doo, right? Is that supposed to be a joke in here? But anyway, while the bike's being fixed, the clean energy guy offers to let her stay at his commune, and there's them changing out the old and the new batteries, which, yeah, those are supposed to be batteries, but boy, do they look like big tubs of Gatorade. I don't know, that's just me, I guess. But anyway, Elle goes off to join the commune, and there are those wind turbines I talked about, straight from the real world wind turbines. Yeah, I don't know. We do get a fair bit, and this is what's going to be a lot of the rest of the comic, is Elle wandering around the city and looking at them growing tomatoes and stuff, and meeting the doctor wife of the main guy and their little kid. But yeah, a lot of this rest of this issue is Elle wandering around the city and the stuff with the bad guys. So the bad guys, they're doing fracking, and to keep all his workers busy, he has several replicants that are pleasure models. However, you get this guy over here from the Wallace Corporation, and he says that just because Tyrell went under doesn't mean you don't still have contracts with us, and we're taking in all your pleasure units, and sort of, I guess, doing an inventory and maybe changing them, I don't know. But they take all the pleasure units, and he's like, what are my men going to do? And he really doesn't care and shows them one of the units that they've killed and left in the desert. And this guy, he's got a thing on the back of his head. He really looks like one of Lando's guys from Cloud City. And is it just me, or look at how small it is in that panel, and then how big it gets over here. I think the thing on the back of his head grows throughout the whole issue. But anyway, even though they say they're just there for the pleasure units, he will get on his phone call, as villains often do, and we see a much higher up bad guy, and they're, of course, really just looking for Elle. So that's what the villains are up to. Anyway, overall, like I said, the issues, it's okay. I definitely could see it having potential in the future when we get more of Wallace's people showing up. Hopefully we switch to a more action-heavy version of this, because that really is the Black Lotus feel. But as it stands, most of issue 1, and I granted issue 1 should be a sort of introductory get-to-know-the-book issue, but as it stands, most of issue 1 is just wandering around this, you know, Fracktown place, and it's not the best thing ever. So hopefully it will pick up. I don't know if I'll cover every single issue of this, but it's okay. It's just, it doesn't have that Blade Runner feel that I wanted, and it's not action heavy. We get to see Elle again, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I wish it was more what I expected it to be. I don't know. Overall, the book's okay, not great, but I'll definitely, I don't know if I'll pick up every single individual issue or if I'll just get the rest when it's a trade. But I'll see what happens at the end, and I hope it gets better. I just don't know if it will. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Blade Runner playlist. You can see me review Black Lotus, as well as a lot of the Titan comics on there, and the first movie, and Kurt Russell's Soldier. So if you want to see me talk about more Blade Runner, you can find that in the playlist there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.